Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. Happy Monday to you. We are right at the end of our latest tour to Armenia. You might wonder why I do trips to Armenia. And so I just wanted to give you a little kind of background on why I've started doing this. I came to cover the war in Armenia back in 2020. Before that, didn't know anything about Armenia. I knew it was a country, but I couldn't have found it on the map. And when I got here, it was just blown away by what a hidden gem it is from a tourism standpoint. It doesn't get a ton of American tourists. It is so full of very rich history, incredible culture, good food, beautiful scenery. And if you've been following my Facebook, you've seen some of that scenery as I've been posting it along the way. This trip was extra special because in the middle of the trip, we had a wedding. My son Nathan came over here with us last May on a tour and fell in love with the country, decided to stay and explore a little bit more. And within about a month's time, he had met a girl and decided he was ready to settle down, and she's a wonderful young lady. So that made this trip extra special. But just to give you kind of an overview of what we did, just in case you're interested in returning with us, perhaps next May when we run our next trip over here. I think we'll probably do this every year, and we're coming whether or not anybody comes with us. But it's fun to open it up and bring people and show them something that they've never seen before. It's so much fun. I really enjoyed on this trip just watching the awe and wonderment on the faces of the 25 people who came with us on this tour. And it was really a fabulous week. We started out here in Yerevan. Yerevan's a great walking city. It's I don't know, probably about 1 million people, but it just seems a lot smaller than that. It is a safe, clean place, much cleaner than most cities in Europe these days. And that's owing to the homogeneous nature of the people here, the common worldview that they share with Christianity. And it's just, I hate to say this, but you always hear people say diversity is our strength. And I often wonder what they mean by that. Diversity does not seem to translate to strength in most cases when it comes to demographics. Now, can diversity of thought bring improvements, progression? Yeah, that's cool. But in reality, you want to live in a place where most people around you think about the same way you do, at least about the big issues. And all you have to do is take a look at the intensely divided nature of the United States today and and then come here and see a place where it's safe and tranquil and peaceful, and people don't get just, at each other's throats about every little thing. And it's really kind of refreshing, I have to say. So we came here a week ago. We started out in Yerevan. We saw some of the sights around this city, the Cascades, and we had some nice meals out on the sidewalk cafes and stuff. This place really reminds me of what Europe used to be before they embraced diversity to the point that they basically gave up their own culture. And now what you see is you go to Wales, for example, and you think you could be in Saudi Arabia. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with Saudi Arabia. I visited there this year. But if you go to England, it's kind of surprising to see Saudi Arabia. So we went from Yerevan up to Lori province in the north, which is just absolutely beautiful. I don't even really know what to compare it to in the United States, because it's, as somebody said, it's kind of like Wyoming and West Virginia put together. It's kind of, I don't know that does it justice. It's got these huge, just gorges up there, and beautiful green valleys and green, not valleys, it's up on plateaus, I guess. Um, it's really something to see. Fascinating place up there, and a lot of post-Soviet or old Soviet kind of leftovers and buildings and factories and things like that that are very interesting to look at and explore. From there, we went down to the middle of the country in a place called Dilijan and Yerevan. We saw a couple monasteries and had some good barbecues, and did some more exploring there. Then that's where the wedding was. The wedding was fantastic. It started out with sort of a tragedy because it was supposed to be an outdoor wedding, and right when the wedding was supposed to start, it just started hailing and raining like you can't believe, to the point where we went ahead and went out there and figured maybe it'll blow over. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and the hail was coming down and the lightning started, and I finally told my son, somebody's going to get killed out here with all these metal umbrellas sticking up in the air on the top of this mountain. So he called it, and we went to the reception site, and we actually had the wedding there, and it turned out perfect.
Rabina, would you repeat this to Nathan? In the presence of God.
In the presence of God.
And before our family and friends.
And before our family and friends.
I, Rabina, take you, Nathan.
I, Rabina, take you, Nathan.
To be my husband.
To be my husband.
It was great. It was just such a meaningful time. And it doesn't really matter how you get married, it just matters how you stay married. And that's what we kept telling them. It's also, I also mentioned when I kind of gave my talk at the wedding, that enduring hardship together as a married couple is one of the things that draws you together and strengthens the bonds of your marriage. And they were fortunate in that right at the very moment of their matrimony, they got to start enduring hardship together. And those are the kinds of things that cement your relationship and create a common bond fighting the fight together that lasts a lifetime. Sometimes you have that adversity, the things that come along, that God's plans are not your plans, and it's easy to get really upset and wrapped around the axle about it. But in the final analysis, you look back and you're grateful because of that bad day. And so, maybe this wedding was just a good lesson in that. Bottom line, we had a fantastic night at the wedding, and the next day we drove to a spa town called Yermuk, which is where the water, it's a sparkling water called Yermuk, is bottled. There's a spring there and a waterfall and some hot springs and things like that. We just went there and had a spa day and just relaxed and enjoyed the beautiful scenery up there from our hotel. Did some hiking, and the girls got massages and things like that. It was a real good time. The next day we drove down to the kind of the eastern part of Armenia in the south, and to a monastery called Tatev. You take this aerial tramway across. It's I think the world's longest. It takes about 15 minutes. It's like 16 kilometers, I think, to get across this aerial tramway, and it's just beautiful. I mean, you're way up above the mountains and floating along. It's fascinating. And then you get to the village of Tatev. There's a monastery there, which is probably the most spectacular monastery in all of Armenia. Most of the people on the trip said that day was the highlight of their trip, the wedding notwithstanding. We stayed in did like a homestay. We stayed with local people in the village of Tatev. This is a tiny little farming village. These people are subsistence farmers, and they put us up in their homes, and it is actually a fantastic experience. Everybody said it was just amazing. Their food all comes from their garden, and they fed us really well. We spent the night there, got up the next morning, and then had a long day of exploring. Went to several different important sites. Went to a place called Armenia, which is kind of the birthplace of wine. We did a wine tasting. They explored the wine caves where they have found 6,000-year-old wine vats and things like that. They we also went to a church called Yerevan, which is way up in this gorge that's just absolutely beautiful. Yerevan means new church. It's only from the 15th century or something like that, you know. And then we went to one of the most important monasteries in Armenia called Yerevan. Now you might be thinking, monastery, like that sounds like it would get boring. But we were talking last night to people and asking them about that, and they said, yeah, we were worried about that, but man, every one of those things is so different and so amazing and so picturesque. It's just incredible that you could spend a whole week visiting all these different monasteries and still, you know, just be amazed by every one of them. And they really are. And not to mention the fact they're so incredibly old, and they represent this very solid Christian history of Armenia, and they teach you a lot about it. Then the last day, yesterday we came back to Yerevan, and we went to the Genocide Museum to learn more about the Armenian genocide, 1915 through 1918. And we went to the, some people went to the Yerevan cemetery, where they have buried, it's a military cemetery where the soldiers from this recent war are buried. And that's a really powerful and touching sight to see 5,000 graves, new graves over the last couple of years from this war. All these men were killed in 44 days. That's just mind-blowing. It's really something to see. I think maybe next time we might see that on the front end, so that you have a better sense of what these people have been through as you're meeting them along the way. So last night we went to a big banquet dinner at probably the best restaurant in Armenia, and had some amazing live music and finish off the trip. It was a really good trip. Like I say, we're going to be doing these trips again, and you are welcome to join us. And so if you're interested, reach out to us through chuckholton.locals.com. Go there and like and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for watching Hot Zone. Thanks for supporting us. I want to mention one more thing. 2 different times during this trip, we were able to go and meet with local families who have been impacted by the war in Artsakh, who lost their homes there and are struggling to make a living and find a place to live in Armenia as internally displaced people. And the people on our tour were so incredibly generous to just reach out and bless them and love them. We prayed with them, and they in one case gave the family enough money to finish off the inside of their house so that they could move into it. In another case, they were also building a house, and we raised quite a bit of money and just blew those families away. And I have to say, for me, that's the highlight of the trip. We donate money that you all send to the podcast when we find families like that. So you are making a difference in the lives of people who are having their worst day in war zones across the globe through the Hot Zone podcast.